It has been a absolutely massive couple of days in the MMA community. The UFC just signed their new broadcasting deal for 2026 and on, a 7-year deal with Paramount Plus for $7.7 billion. And with that deal has come a lot of questions about pay-per-views, because the pay-per-view is essentially dead, which we'll get to in a moment. But fighter pay, returning of stars like Jon Jones and Conor McGregor, and of course, the absolutely massive White House card that is supposed to be taking place next 4th of July. So we're going to get into all of the news surrounding this deal. I know I already made a video a couple days ago, but there's some things we need to expand on. Stick around to hear my thoughts. I'm Wyatt, and this is Fight Society. Okay, so the first thing that we need to address is the pay-per-view dead or not dead comment by Dana White, because the new deal with Paramount calls for 13 numbered events, 30 fight nights, 0 pay-per-views. Because they had been doing 14 or so numbered events / pay-per-views, there's been some questions as to what exactly is that 14th event going to be. Is pay-per-view dead as a whole? This is what Dana White had to say.
The whole thing started going out. Pay-per-view's dead. Pay-per-view's not dead. We're on pay-per-view on Saturday. And the pay-per-view business is still very much alive and well. But, you know, we were talking about potential pay-per-view with other streaming partners that we were talking to in the deal, but just not in this one. And you know, who knows what could happen? The beautiful thing about this business is every year something happens that I don't see coming. You know, a fight that you never thought would happen, or who knows? I mean, now, you know, we're doing boxing and we're doing MMA. Who knows what could happen, and anything could be a pay-per-view. Something could be a pay-per-view still.
Does this require like massive restructuring of like fighter pay? I mean, they used to be pay-per-view partners with you, right?
We'll get to the fighter pay in a moment, but Dana White just wants to leave that door open for him to be like, oh yeah, Jones versus Aspinall at the White House. This one is pay-per-view. Like, he just wants to leave that open. Or, you know, whatever the big card is. He actually did say that the White House card would be for free on CBS, but he just wants to leave that door open because there is tens of millions of dollars out there in pay-per-view if they want to put on some super event like Topuria versus Canelo on pay-per-view or something like that, like some crossover thing, because they have Canelo on their roster in some ways. I know that it's just for the Bud Crawford fight. They still already have a contractual agreement with Canelo. If they wanted to do a Canelo versus Topuria on pay-per-view, I'm sure they would make it happen. But essentially, pay-per-views are dead. It's not a alive and well business like Dana White says it is. It is for the next 3 or 4 months until we're into 2026 on Paramount, but I'm fairly certain UFC pay-per-views are done. It's an outdated model. We've talked about this quite a bit.
Right now what's the carrot or the encouragement to be the superstar?
It's not massive restructuring. You know, we got a bunch of smart kids over there that work in the accounting department to figure out how to, you know, how to make all this stuff work.
And furthermore, over fighter pay, Dana White was asked about this on Pardon My Take, and you can see the comments are not in favor of what Dana White had to say. Hell yeah, they're adding $250 from 10 and 10 to 10.5 and 10.5. I think that the base contracts went from 8 and 8 to 12 and 12 with the ESPN deal. We'll see what happens here. I would love to see a like $25K minimum. I don't know how they would make that work, but $25K to show, $25K to win actually sounds like a pretty good model, to where if you're a fighter, even on the prelims, you fight 3 times a year, even if you only win 2 of them, you're still making close to $100,000 in a year or more than that. And you don't really have to go and like wait tables or bartend, which I think detracts from the sport, detracts from the growth of the sport, and makes people take the sport less seriously. I mean, you're a pro athlete fighting on ESPN or some other major network, and you have to frickin' wait tables at Chili's on the weekends, you know? Doesn't really seem ideal for growing the sport, especially with this new big deal. I'd love to see the fighter pay go up. But this is what Dana White had to say about it on Pardon My Take.
What does it mean for the fighters? Are they going to get, because a lot of the fighters, obviously big fighters, they would get a cut of the pay-per-view. Now, if there's less pay-per-views, is it like the base goes up? How does that work?
Yeah. Listen, when you do a deal like this, we're talking about how good it is for the fans. It's obviously good for the company, but it's incredible for the fighters. And we always had a model where you eat what you kill type thing with the pay-per-views. Mathematically, you just figure that out. It's going to be incredible. Since 2001, the day we bought this,
kind of ducking the question, to be honest.
Company, fighter pay has gone up. Every new deal that we've done, fighter pay has gone up, and obviously, fighter pay will go up for this deal. It's a really, not just financially for the fighters, but the amount of exposure now that they're going to get. More people can tune in, for $12.99 than they could for 80 plus.
So I think Dana White, by saying more people can tune in at $12.99 versus $80 for a pay-per-view, he's actually kind of hinting at like a reach and promotion perspective for people to get brand deals, endorsements, and things like that. So he's saying that it will go up, but he didn't directly say that fighter pay is going to go up in their contracts. He's actually kind of saying that the fighter pay is going to go up outside of their UFC contract, just as a byproduct of their exposure on a major platform. And now an expansion on the talk from the Contender Series interview earlier from here. He also talks about the fighter pay going up as well, but through bonuses.
Like massive restructuring of like fighter pay. I mean, they used to be pay-per-view partners with you, right? Now what's the carrot or the encouragement to be the superstar?
It's not massive restructuring. We got a bunch of smart kids over there that work in the accounting department to figure out how to, how to make all this stuff work. But it's so good for the fighters. And what I loved about being with, one company that made such a big investment in us is they're all in with us. So, the fighters are going to get tons of promotion, built by all these different unbelievable networks that these guys own. And, these are aggressive, smart guys that are going to build a big media company.
Yeah. Do you know what the cards are going to look like? I mean, now that you...
So again, not a really direct answer. He's basically saying it's good for everybody, but he's not saying how, which actually makes me a little bit worried that fighter contracts aren't going to change at all. Maybe for the champions, but not for your average guy, which I think needs to happen. Quick break. If you're loving this video and you want more from Fight Society, click that join button down below to become a channel member today, where you'll get access to members-only live streams, behind-the-scenes vlogs, and all the unfiltered stuff that we don't post to the main channel. Back to the video.
You no longer have to sell a pay-per-view. Does that mean you don't necessarily have to stack the numbered events so deep and you spread the roster a little bit?
That's not the way I think. That's not the way I think. We're going to go in with to this Paramount deal, guns a-blazing, no, that's not the way I think. I don't go, let's water this shit down now. We don't have to, exact opposite.
The fighter pay stuff.
He's kind of lying there as well. I mean, this is a big deal for the sport. I want to be realistic about the upsides and the downsides of this, because the sport did start to get watered down with the ESPN deal. Now with one company in charge of it, like I said in my video the other day, are we going to see it get watered down even more?
Obviously that's going to go up and the fighters are going to get money. Do you guys look at that as a case-by-case contractual basis with each fighter? Or do
What's the question?
I'm getting there. Do you look at it case-by-case with each fighter, or do you go, right, we're going to
What was the first part of the question?
Fighter pay.
Fighter pay.
Yeah. So do you look at it as like case-by-case on each fighter, or do you go, right, we're just going to up the base pay and maybe up the bonuses? How do you sort of figure out the fighter pay rising?
Yeah. Listen, I'm not going to have any comments on that yet, because we still got to get together and figure this stuff out. It's August. We have till January to figure all that stuff. But, the low-hanging fruit that's easy to answer, bonuses are obviously going up. So, that'll be big. And just forget about the tide rising with all the other fighters. I mean, just the number that the bonuses bring to a fighter is, that's millions of dollars.
So he kind of hints at $1 million bonuses or potential for $1 million bonuses, but same thing, ducking the question. I do appreciate the way that the fans and the media and YouTube and Twitter for MMA are kind of like, okay, yeah, great, big deal, massive TV rights deal, but what about the fighters? Because in every other sport, people are well paid. Nobody goes, oh yeah, we got to get them paid even more, except for the players unions in major sports. But here, where there is no fighters union or anything like that, and I'm not necessarily arguing for a fighters union. It's a big deal that the community goes, cool, that's a lot of money. No more pay-per-views. We're getting our upside, but what about the fighters? Are they getting paid? I think that's pretty cool. And so Dana White was also asked about Power Slap, which Paramount absolutely did not want.
So, all fun stuff.
Is Power Slap involved in any way, Dana, with the deal, or is that still going to be...
No.
Okay.
No, which is even crazier.
No. And the comments are great here. Why wouldn't they want it? It gets more views than every sport and TV show combined. And it's funny that the big promotion, you know, they might be like, oh yeah, for that price, we'll throw in Power Slap too. And Paramount says, fuck no. We move on from that to some news surrounding the biggest names in the sport, Jon Jones and Conor McGregor. They have constantly been brought up as potential returns on this new Paramount deal. Conor McGregor's been posting sparring footage, and Dana White actually seems on board with making Conor the White House main event. So let's see what he said right here.
Posting videos of himself training. He's back in the pool now. He wants the White House. If he starts getting in shape and training and stays the course, that's the fight he wants. He keeps telling me he wants that fight.
And Conor has a habit of sparring like his personal chef, his security guard, his personal trainer, basically beating on people that, I mean, look at who's in this room. Look at the build of people in this room, and he's just piecing them up. Conor does tend to spar people way worse than him, or at least in recent years. It didn't used to be that way. Here you have Conor commenting, Mac, make the punches whistle, and Dana White seems all for it. Conor was at Trump's inauguration back in January. So it makes a lot of sense that Conor is going to return, because it seems like this White House card is like the one thing that gets people like Jon Jones and Conor McGregor excited to return. $20 million, $30 million, that doesn't do it. But for some reason, fighting on the White House lawn is what's bringing Conor back. Dana White seems all for it. I will not be surprised if you see Conor McGregor main event the July 4th card in 2026 at the White House. But that card is already having problems. As you see right here, Dana White has revealed that there is a fresh issue, like a new issue with the event. Says Dana White says the current issue they're working to resolve for the White House event is the weight of the octagon on the lawn. He will be flying out to the White House on August 28th to go over his plans with President Trump and his team. From what Dana White has said, the octagon weighs like 20,000 pounds or something like that. I might be overshooting it a little bit, but it seems like an issue that could potentially move it like out onto the street in front of the White House or something like that, because it is a lawn. It's not a arena with a concrete ground like T-Mobile Arena or something like that. There's an issue there, but I still think it's most likely going to happen. They seem all in on it. They're talking about it being on CBS. It seems like they got this big money partially because of the July 4th event. So we'll see if that comes together. But the McGregor comeback is in full swing at this point. They're actually pushing this. Paradigm Sports and the Notorious MMA. They're posting promo videos for Conor's return. It seems, I know I've made so many videos about his return at this point, and I've even given up hope myself. But then they post things like this, and I'm right back in.
You know, not only just a return, the greatest return in combat sports.
The one, the only, the notorious Conor McGregor!
Like, that's pretty sick. And it's being posted on his account and his management's account. I think this is a very serious possibility. And I think if they're going to do a big card on national TV, like CBS or at the White House on CBS, they got to do Conor. At the very least, Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall. But speaking of that fight, Jon Jones turned down $30 million.
Jones has been ducking him.
Yes. I don't like that word because I think it's disrespectful towards him, but I think he didn't want to fight him. And I think it was a calculated decision on his part. Why did you drag this out all the way until June when you knew you weren't going to fight him? He gave the UFC a number. I believe it's in the $30 million range for this fight, which, by the way, I think he deserves. Yeah. He didn't think that they would come up with the number, and they did.
Oh, what?
Oh, they did come up with the number, yes. And I believe that Saudi Arabia was involved. The big dogs were involved, right? And he said yes. And then 2 days later, 3 days later, whatever, he said, nah, on second thought, I'm out.
What?
And that's why when he announced his retirement, Dana said, he gave me his word, and then he went back on his word.
Whoa.
I think he was hoping that they would not meet the number, and then he could be like, hey guys, I tried.
And Turkey was just like, no, we haven't.
And they met it. Yeah. Because that's what happened with the Francis Ngannou fight in 2020. He threw out a massive number. They said no. And then the fight fizzled. This time they said yes.
So there's a lot in there, but essentially this proves that John Jones, his championship title reign at heavyweight, his status as the greatest of all time in our sport is a complete and total joke, if you ask me. So $30 million, the Saudis got involved. They said yes, and John Jones went back on his word. This makes a lot more sense than Dana White lying and saying the fight is done when it's not. I know he's done that before, but now that we have other people in the community that are very connected talking about how John Jones said yes and then changed his mind, I believe this story. I genuinely do. And I think that John Jones made a joke out of himself, the UFC and the heavyweight title picture, and also kind of ruined Tom Aspinall's title reign at heavyweight because there's always going to be that John Jones question mark. John Jones might want to come back for the White House, but at this point, when you do him like that, when you do Dana and the UFC like that, I think they should stick it to you and be like, fuck no, you're not going to be on the White House card. So a lot of news regarding the new deal. Returns of McGregor and Jones, very possible. Big stuff, big stuff. So let me know your thoughts down below. I'm Wyatt. This is Fight Society. Do you want more from Fight Society? Like and subscribe below this video and click the join button to become a channel member today to get access to behind the scenes vlogs and members only live streams.